Okay, thank you so very much. We were checking our stuff too. How are you this morning?
I'm well. How are you?
I am doing very, very good. So since we're running tight, I'm just going to get right into it if you don't
Yes,
mind.
ma'am.
We have several people here with us. You may be able to see them pop online. I have a school teacher behind me, Frankie Long,
Hello.
and she can't see you yet.
Oh, okay.
And Ron Fowler is there. We don't see his face yet. And
Okay.
one of the tombs might,
There you go.
she might show up.
Hello.
Okay, dokie. Has the Central Labor Council interviewed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have, thank God, been interviewed, because they're going to vote on Wednesday in regards to what they're going to do. We're part of labor, and what we're doing is giving them what our opinion is, and we might do some things separate from them, not sure. Okay, so where are you originally from?
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
How long you been here?
23 years.
Okay, and what is your profession?
Nonprofit executive director.
And what is your nonprofit?
Helping empower youth. We call it HAY for short. And we serve Black male teens on the west side of Atlanta.
Okay. Now, how much money is it going to take for you to win your race?
$90,000.
$90,000. So you were running at large?
I am.
Okay. And who's your major opponent?
Right now, Royce Mann or Tamara Jones.
Okay. How many people in your race?
5, including me.
Okay. So more than likely, you know it's going to be a runoff.
Yes, ma'am.
I know everybody say, well, no, who's good? But every time we already know it's going to be a runoff. So this is at large. Okay, then. All right. So I got those little things out of the way. Why did you want to be on the Atlanta Board of Education?
I have served in school communities all of my professional career. I'm also the daughter of a teacher who taught for 35 years in Virginia Beach. And what I've noticed over the last 15 or so years when I've been paying close attention to the board is that there are not many board members that still have current connections to community, to students, or to families. And with this being an open seat, I saw it as an opportunity to bring that perspective to the board so that as we are thinking through what good policy decisions will be, we have someone that can also share in real time and in a relevant way of how those decisions may impact the students a bit sooner than us waiting 2 and 3 school cycles, because someone on the board will still have a very clear and direct connection to students and to families and how they're being served in the school system.
Now you have a fresh perspective if you should win.
Yes.
Of course, you know, you need 5 votes to get any of your ideas across.
Yes.
And so are you aware of how that board functions right now?
I am. I have built relationships with a lot of the existing board members. And for me, it's a lot like the work that I do in my nonprofit. It is working with partners, be it corporate, community, religious, and faith-based at times, definitely parents and community leaders, to be able to hear from folks and really see how can we come to one common accord so that we can move forward. So I think it's about relationship building. That has to happen as well, and not assume that working in silos is what's going to continue to carry us forward. So, you know, while I think there are a lot of intelligent, bright people, and I'll never tell someone if they're passionate about children or not, I do believe that there needs to be some movement on the board so that we can work a bit more efficiently and get things passed a bit sooner.
And you named partners.
Yes.
In your opinion, the Atlanta Board of Education caters to just name one partner more than others?
I would say it would be a conglomerate maybe of corporate groups. I know that Atlanta is an independent school district, and so that has its own challenges working alongside with the city. But a lot of times what we see is that both the city and the school board are working to cater to corporate groups so that they can bring headquarters in, or so that they can complete gentrification projects or development projects. And a lot of times the decisions are not student first. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I know off the top of my head one particular group, but I do know that there's a lot of corporate influence that is on the board. And for me, I like to work deeply rooted in community and be able to allow that to lead it and guide us.
Very good. Thank you so much. What do you know about Teach for America? What is your opinion about it?
Sure. I have worked with a few Teach for America members when I was assigned to Bethune Elementary School. So I've spent time in classrooms as well, serving as full-time tutors through the AmeriCorps program, but also as someone providing wraparound services through my work at Families First, Hands on Atlanta, Points of Light. And so I know that they are part of the national service model and that they go out and that they receive or advocate and recruit, rather, folks that may not be embedded in our communities. And for folks to be able to come in, teach for a couple of years, get some of the student loans paid off or receive education awards to be able to further their education. And you see a lot of those TFA members end their service to students and school communities once their term of service is up. While I think it's noble, I do think that it can be problematic at times because our students require a very specialized focus, and they deserve folks that are going to be committed to them for the long term, especially over these last 10 years or so that we've experienced in the school system. For folks to come in to teach and it be solely for their benefit does a disservice to our children and our school communities. I've met some good TFA members, right? So I like to give credit where credit is due, but as a whole, I do think the program should be revamped. And you should recruit from inside your city. You should recruit from inside your community instead of bringing people from all over the country to teach our students here in Atlanta.
Very good. Thank you. I shouldn't be, I don't supposed to be giving a vague judgment. Being interviewed, but I love these answers. Okay. In preparation for the life and future of the children in Atlanta Public Schools, what type of education should APS provide in addition to what it's providing now?
Yes, I really think that the curriculum should be looked at holistically, that it should be culturally competent, first of all. And I know that there's a big debate around critical race theory. And for me, that's not even the same thing. That has to be discussed and has to be figured out, of course, but culturally competent, meaning that our students are being able to learn their standards in a way that makes sense for them. I'll give this really quick example because I think it'll sum it up a little better than me being wordy. I was proctoring a test for a student and he was at Harper Archer and he was one student. You know, folks can say what they want about Harper Archer, but this particular student had a 4.0. He was a straight A student. And he was so consumed with getting the test correct that he timed out on his math portion because he didn't know what the word parasailing meant. And so he could not complete the word problem because he could not figure out in his mind what was parasailing. And so folks can say all day, well, he needed better test taking skills. He should have just bypassed the word, figured out the problem. And my response to that is why create additional barriers when there didn't need to be any? And so I do think that we need to think about culturally rich and culturally competent curriculum, but also we have to prepare our students for this world we're sending them out into. We know that not every one of our students is going to go to college. So at graduation day, some of our students need to be able to walk right into sustainable, livable wage jobs and be successful in taking care of themselves. We also live in a gig economy. There are a lot of students who are enamored by entrepreneurship and working for themselves. I also tell them the best way to be a good boss is to be a great employee first. But for some of them, they may have dreams of doing that. And so we need to make sure that we are preparing our students for being able to take care of themselves, whether college is their track or not. And then I think the other thing that we need to do as we're thinking about our education and what happens in the classrooms in that instructional period is also aligning students with ways to give back a little bit more, really be embedded in their community. I know that seniors have, community service hours that are required of them before graduation, but a lot of those students are just doing things to check off the box. It would be great to see a service learning component added so that they really do understand that they live in a great city and that they can do their part even now to give back to it.
Thank you so very much. Okay, next one. What are your plans to include parents? And I mean all the parents.
Yes,
all the parents.
all the parents.
We know that a kid is coming from somewhere. If it's a foster home, a
Absolutely.
grandparent's home, or a two-family home, one-family home, they're coming from somewhere.
Yes.
But what are your plans to make sure that every parent is reached,
Yes.
especially you're at large? Go ahead.
Yes. So
Okay,
this is where,
let me say this too for you, because I want to stay in touch with you too.
okay,
Bear in mind now, you could win, you could not win.
sure.
But you want to build from this race
Yes.
to continue if you have to run again. I know because it's expensive, but
Mhm.
keep yourself out there. Keep your organization, everything that you organize will keep it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So tell us now, every parent, what would you do if you
Mhm.
there to reach every parent?
Yes. So this is where I pull a little bit on my mother's experience. My mother was a Title I coordinator in Virginia Beach right when Title I dollars also started to include curriculum. So for math and reading tutorials, and they would do the pull-out methods where they take a small group, work one-on-one, small group settings, and parental involvement was a big piece of that plan for her. So the first thing that I would do is to stop assuming that when parents don't show up, it's because they don't care. That there are times where we have to take the meeting and the information to parents. That may mean some weekend activities for parents. That may mean having 2 different times for PTA meetings, be it mid-morning or in the evening, because a lot of our parents of the students that we serve are working parents. And if they don't go to work, they don't get paid. And so now you're asking them to choose between paying rent, buying food, and showing up to prove that they are invested in their children. So I would definitely start by taking some of the information either to clubhouses, common rooms, an apartment, or communities. I would make sure that we have some Saturday activities where parents can come and be a part of those things on the weekend. I would use every digital option that I have. I think that we should do more things about reaching across with MPUs. Some parents are involved in their communities at that level, and they have ways to be able to get to their residents because it's a smaller group of folks that they have to be engaged with. I just don't think we're utilizing all of our resources. I think that, from what I have seen and what I've been engaged in is that either you get the piece of paper that comes home in the book bag, or if you are connected to the Twitter account or maybe to the newsletter, but a lot of our parents are not connected like that. And I don't think that we should make judgment calls on whether or not they're involved. We have to do a step further and take the information to them.
Right.
I would like to add to that I was an ESOL teacher for many years. And in many communities, parents don't come to the school unless there's a problem and the schools come because your child's in trouble. So that has to go into the thinking about how do you approach all of those parents that yet with the idea that no, in this country, everybody's entitled to come to the school. We want you here, come see what's happening, not just to hear them play the violin, but every day.
Yes. No, thank you for bringing that up. One of the things I've done in my work is train parents on how to have better relationships with their teachers and school administrators. And the first thing that I tell them is don't wait for your teacher to call you. You also have the ability to extend that olive branch and to build that bridge. And so if your child's teacher is only calling you when something is wrong or something is amiss, then this is your opportunity to say, hey, I know the last time I talked to you, we had a challenge. We're working on that. But it's been a couple of weeks now and I haven't heard from you. Can you now give me an update? That puts some accountability on folks to make sure the communication is two-way, but also making sure that folks are sometimes reminded, oh, parents want to hear the good things too, not just when I need them to be involved in modifying behavior or attitudes or related to grades. And so we have to make sure that parents know their rights and that they're empowered as well to build those relationships and not just wait for it to come to them. And then you brought up another excellent point. We have to make sure that the communication we share is in other languages. Some of our parents, while they may speak English and speak it proficient enough to be able to understand or have a conversation, they will understand much more if it is shared with them in their language.
And also culturally appropriate.
Absolutely.
Okay, while you're talking, I'm thinking of an idea, Ron, also. And I'm telling one of our other partners, I think that we need to do every one of these questions posting for the public and to have these candidates again questioned by us at a round table and put it out there to all the press, all the media. But now here goes to my next question.
Mhm.
What is Atlanta Public Schools budget? How much money are they dealing with right now?
Well, we're dealing with over $1 billion if you incorporate all of the property that the school system still owns. So the last time I checked, it was around $1.4 billion that is on the table.
That's
So
it. How does that compare to the city of Atlanta?
it's comparable. So, actually, I think the school system has a little bit more than the city of Atlanta.
Just answer. You're on target. Make sure you say that to the round table because we're going to push this right on out. The next thing we want to ask you is, let's see. Okay. Buckhead. There's a movement to take Buckhead away from the city.
There is.
It may not happen this time, but folks are going to keep right on knocking. Now, we want to know what you think about that and what's the impact on the rest of the schools if Buckhead succeeds.
If Buckhead succeeds, it definitely is going to impact the school system. I mean, if we look at the millage rate and the amount of money that comes from the property value of those homes in Buckhead, it is going to immediately put a dent in some of the working funds, which means that every child is affected by Buckhead's decision to succeed in their efforts to leave the city.
Let me stop you to answer that because of time.
Sure.
I'm glad you're aware of that. Now,
Okay.
when you argue on behalf of it succeeding or not succeeding, so that Buckhead also wins, and if you wanted to stay in the city of Atlanta, how would you convince those folks in Buckhead to keep paying those tax dollars to keep giving it to Atlanta?
Yeah. Good question. That's a good question. No, and this is helpful because I have to record a 3-minute video for them today as well. But what I would say to them is you have to allow folks to have the opportunity to be good stewards of what is already here. And so by understanding that there are some things that the Buckhead communities have done well in the North Atlanta cluster, that District 4, that we can replicate in other models. But in order for Buckhead to continue to receive and to keep what they have, we have to also make sure that other districts and other school clusters are getting to par. And in order for them to continue to stay where they are and be who they are and have the influence that they are looking to retain, the only way that happens is by ensuring that the rest of the city is also moving in the direction of making sure that we are sustainable, but we can't be sustainable without them.
All right, so equitability is about more than money.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in your video, you may have to do another video to describe that. Because I think what JP Morgan and all of them found out, if you didn't take care of that working class, if you didn't take care of those assembly line folk, then everybody else is going to go right on down the drain.
Absolutely.
Because I may not be catching martyr, but I may have my boys and we ride up to your house or your business because we're going to live too. Understand what I mean by that? All right.
I do.
So very good. Thank you so much. Frankie, you want to add something?
Yeah, I'm back on Buckhead's idea of totally removing itself from the city of Atlanta. I keep thinking about, because I taught up there, Atlanta owns all those schools.
Mhm.
If Buckhead's going to have their own schools, which is part of their planning, how are they going to do that? I mean, what's going to happen to those buildings? Is the city of Atlanta going to sell them to Buckhead?
They actually probably become Buckhead's property.
Yeah, well,
Thanks to those amendments. And that leads me, did I ask you about charter schools or not?
No, you haven't.
Okay, well, let's ask this question.
okay.
Let me preface it by saying all my hair was brown and probably all Franklin's was what the original color was. When Albert Shanker started talking about charter schools.
Right.
Charter schools, we were major proponents of it. We're not against charter schools, but charter schools are done differently.
Mhm.
And we can't seem to, well, what is your understanding of how charter schools are done in Atlanta? And how could they be improved? And what should the public know?
Yes. So I think that from my understanding that charter schools apply to be part of the charter system and that they receive permission to be able to operate within the school system and within the school district. What I think the public should know and what I think should be done differently is that charter schools should absolutely be held to the same requirements, standards, accountability, reporting structures as our traditional public schools. For me, there's no reason that charter schools should receive any portion of money from the APS budget and not have the same requirements as a traditional public school. That even though they have their own board that may govern their day-to-day operations, that board also needs to be in alignment with what the expectations are of our traditional public school. What I would love to see charter schools be is that alternative for students and families who need a very specified learning style or a way that they can have curriculum implemented for them, because some children need something different, right? And charter schools have the ability to provide that for parents so that they understand that their children get what they need. But I think the politics around the money and also the accountability cloud how charter schools can be effective, and that in order for us to move forward and for me to even consider renewal or even new charters, they have to come in alignment and be accountable 100%, just like a traditional public school would be to the board. Charter school boards need to do the same thing.
And although with your talking with us this morning and the previous candidate, we even have new ideas of pushing this out to the public. Would you be opposed to us pushing this interview out to the public?
No, not at all.
Very good. Thank you so very much. Now, last question.
Yes.
Drum roll. COVID has crystallized for us many problems that have existed for quite a while. In many institutions, period, and how we treat working people in this country. For the first time in a long time, the pendulum is swinging to the side of labor, and there are problems with labor unions, but we really see problems with management, administration, and those people who are hiring bureaucrats to sit in particular seats. And many boards in the private sector may not understand what we understand. I heard a guy say the other day, this was on Sirius Radio, Mr. Hemley, people who don't have to work telling other folks go to work and don't understand. All of us need to make a living. So what has COVID shown you, in your opinion, as to what we need to do to make sure that teachers are at the table? When I say teachers, I'm talking about all segments of the people who are working in the schools. At the table, having real effective impact on policy. Now, I'm gonna say one more thing before your answer. We know that Frederick Douglass said, power conceives nothing without a demand.
Yes.
And the demand shouldn't have to be baseball bats and Coca-Cola bottles cracked open in strikes. But COVID shows us some things right now as to what we have not done in this country that we just talk about during election time. We know that we have a problem keeping good teachers. There's no career path for them. They're in and everybody's coming out of the profession. I saw where the nurses are asking, there's a group asking for governments to declare a nursing shortage. I talked to a former chancellor and he was telling me, yeah, but they ain't gonna declare no teacher shortage. I know, because they're putting in the classrooms, especially in poor schools.
Yes.
So what should we do in Atlanta public schools to give organized teachers? I'm not talking about an ombudsman or somebody the superintendent handpicks. A real voice, sustainable, continuous, that will serve the greater community and the profession itself of teaching. What should be done?
Yes. I would love to see something done across the board. What I plan to do, if I win, is to be able to create an advisory board that includes teachers. And again, that encompasses, like you said, all of that school staff, school support staff as well. I think too many times we make decisions out of our intelligence and our limited experience when we're not in the classrooms daily, really understanding what's happening. And while a lot of that is the superintendent's responsibility and job for those day-to-day operations, we can't set policy if we don't know what's happening. And so it's really important that teachers know and believe and can trust that they have a direct line to decision makers to be able to share what would make their experience in the classroom more robust, more effective, more enjoyable, not just for the students, but for them as well as professionals. And so we need to create a direct line that is about information gathering, right? We don't want to disregard the process and the chain of command, but folks still need to know that they have a direct line to folks who are going to make decisions on their behalf. The second thing that we have to begin to do is understand that teachers have their own families, they have their own health conditions, they have their own personal goals. And for us to not consider those things as we're making decisions, even for students, it does a disservice to the entire district. And so we have to ensure that while we're student first and focus on student achievement, we can't get there if we're not also teacher first and focus on teacher achievement and making sure that they have what they need to be successful as well. So for me, it's about pushing back at times and also lifting up what have we heard from teachers, not the administrators, not the principals, but that third grade, that eighth grade, that second grade teacher in the classroom about what is necessary for them, because they know the students the best. Contrary to what everybody else may say in terms of what students need, it's teachers and families that know what students need ultimately. And we have to hear from them in a much more robust and regular way so that we can really make policy decisions that are going to move APS forward.
Thank you. And as you are running for a position at large, I'm just saying this, you may already know it, but there are about half of the people in Atlanta who are not organized in an organization. And there are some organizations who call themselves unions, but they represent administration. And we're not anti-administration because I have this old saying, without a head is dead and with more than one head is free. However, we have some people who popped up, made their own for-profit organizations and et cetera. There needs to be a systematic way for teachers to speak as one. And I used to belong to another organization. I belong to the AFT because it's, not that I agree with everything that the American Federation of Teachers does, but the American Federation of Teachers is purer with its locals because we are classroom teachers ourselves. And that's who run this organization, paraprofessionals, classroom teachers, and secretaries. So we don't have any mixed anything, okay? So with that said, you know, I am right now calling another organization to the table so that we can demand the respect and sustain it because nobody's going to give it to us. And we keep going around and around in circles here. And after a while, you know, some of us are going to meet Jesus. I hope no time soon, though. But so we don't have anything better to do but to make sure, and this is a mission for us, that classroom teachers themselves not only have high standards, and that they're mentored properly, and that the profession goes to the professionals and not the bureaucrats. But some of the problems that we have in Atlanta public schools are also germane to other school districts, where there's a culture of fear, culture of intimidation, where teachers segregate themselves out, many have to make a living, and they don't have the strongest voice that they should have. We and our other locals just vote leadership out when they are not representing the interest of the teachers at large. So it can be a handful within itself also. I want to thank you very, very much. Yeah, any last words for us?
No, I think I saw Mr. Fowler's hand going up.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I just want to ask a quick question on the heels of what you guys were talking about. Because of that lack of voice and those kinds of things, and other unions here, particularly us, and teachers are afraid, regardless of what we say, to speak. So my question is, are you adverse to us, you know, the teacher organizations, unions having a bigger voice, you know, playing a bigger part, you know, because right now it's pretty minimal. You know, they give us some information and that's pretty much it. But I think because until we can get rid of that culture of fear, you're playing a game, you know, so we can be that voice. They do come through us and we try and do something there, but you get what I'm saying? So the board has to be a part of that as well. I'm not sure if that cross lines or whatever, but you certainly can have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that requires trust and relationship building. And like with anything, it requires consistency and requires some time. And folks can't, and I think at the beginning of this, we can't just say things because we're campaigning. And that is one of the things that I look at even when I'm voting as a citizen. Did you keep your last promise? And if you didn't keep your promise, did you communicate with us along the way why you couldn't? Was it more information that you received, right? Did something change based on what you had? If you communicate with me, I may not just say, oh, you broke your promise, because you kept me in the loop along the way. And a lot of times folks will have great intentions, but they don't follow through on them. This is my work. This is what I do every day, serving young people. So I don't have to become somebody different when I become a board member, hopefully. This will just be extended and expanded. And I relationship build, I build trust. I ensure that people know that I can't make a decision on your behalf without you being a part of it. And I would honestly do a disservice to my mother's legacy as a teacher, knowing how many hours she spent away from me, hearing from teachers, hearing from her other colleagues, hearing from parents and communities, to be that voice, even to the point where administration was ready to kick her out of the school because she demanded that the folks who would not be heard could be heard. And so I would like to do that. I want to do that here in this city that's given me so much. And I know I've done my job well when it's not the folks that want me out, but it's the folks I serve with or administrators who want me out, because I'm bringing the voice of folks who are impacted the most to the table. I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, Verdaillia.
A few years ago, we saw a Teach for America heavy board go in where people were handpicked. We see it in various parts of government across the country. We see it happening in City Hall right now. I've had different offices, not the whole organization of just Black organizations like NAACP, some of the ministers and all that try to wink at it and give it a blind eye. And I dealt with some of them this weekend. But we can't improve unless we know the truth.
Absolutely.
And but anyway, and so we like what, Ron? Huh? Oh, okay.
No.
So I first want to commend you for your bravery. And I'm gonna give you my personal email address, and we'd like to have yours. Mine is, if you don't mind writing this down, it looks like a company email address.
Okay.
Right. GFT.
Yes.
PRES.
PRES.
At bellsouth.net. One of the problems we've had with people on the Atlanta Board of Education the past few years, they're using it as a stepping stone. Too many of them are over-representing corporate America. And that's how some of them got elected with that kind of money, all the way up to the mayorship. And they may hand people a few crumbs, sound good when they go to coffee meetings, but when they really get down to try to get into the community, they're absent until the next 4 years. And they rely upon people forgetting, people dying, and new people coming on. They get new people. See, I love voter registration, but voter education is key, and it should be continuous. But there's so much money in going to get voter registration. Yes, I said it. But anyway, all right. Thank you, darling. Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Turner.
All right, and we'll be into, what's your personal email address? We need it.
Yes, it is KaCey, KaCey, Venning, VENNING @gmail.com.
Breath of fresh air. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful day.
All right, bye-bye.